Hey everyone, it's me Bailey and welcome back to my channel. So today's video ends when I find a 5-star read. So I got to thinking, I was like, okay, when is the last time that I had a 5-star read? I haven't had a 5-star read since June or July. The last 5-star book that I read was 11 Other Words by Christina Lauren. So I have not had a 5-star read since. So over the next amount of time, I'm going to be reading books and trying to find a 5-star book. So it is October 31st. It's Halloween. I haven't had a 5-star read since like June or July. It's time. I need a 5-star read. So that is what I'm going to be doing in this video. So the first book that I'm going to be starting with is In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken. This is the third book in the Darkest Minds trilogy. Now, sometimes I feel like third books are the best books in series, and I feel like this has the potential to be a 5-star book. I'm not sure. Like, I have been reading the Darkest Minds series, and so far I've actually been really enjoying these books a lot more than I expected that I was going to. So I feel like this could potentially be a 5-star book just based on some things that have happened in the previous 2 books and how I'm hoping that this is going to conclude. But then again, I also don't know. So it could also be like a 1-star book based on the ending as well. So I'm basically going to just be reading this book, fingers crossed that it's going to be 5-star, and if it's not, then on to the next one. And this video will never be seen, because if I find a 5-star in the first one, you know, I obviously will not put this video out. But the goal is for me to find a 5-star, so hopefully it is this one, but if it's not, then we will be moving on to the next book. So starting with this one, and yeah, so with that being said, I'm gonna get to reading and I will talk to you guys again later. Okay, so it has now been a couple of days since I came on here and did the intro for this video, but I have just finished In the Afterlife by Alexandra Bracken, and I've come to report that it was not a 5-star. I have decided to give this book a 3-star. I felt like for a conclusion book, I feel like I was very disappointed in the conclusion for this series. I just felt like most of the things that were in this book were not very like fleshed out super well. Like, the whole book revolved around this plan that we never really got to see, or we never really knew about until like the very ending of the book. So like, they were talking about this plan but never really went into detail about the plan. So it was kind of hard when the plan started happening to be like, okay, what's going on? Which, I mean, I guess that's kind of the point for like wow factor or like shock factor or like whatever. But for me, it just didn't land. And I don't know if it was just because this book was written in like 2014 and it's now like nearly 10 years later, so it just didn't like hit the same. I don't know. But 3 stars. I would recommend this series if you're looking for a young adult dystopian series. I feel like it did stand the test of time for the most part, but yeah, so not a 5-star. So I will be moving on to my next book, which I think is going to be Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and I'll update you when I start that book. Hello, so I have finished another book and unfortunately it was not a 5-star. So today I finished On Cloud 9 by Kelsey Denise Stone, and I decided to give this book 3.75 stars. This book followed Matthew and Molly, who we have met in the previous books in this companion series, and it is a like marriage of convenience, fake dating, forced proximity, only one bed type of situation, and I really enjoyed it. It was a little cheesy and some things were a little bit like weird in it, but overall I did enjoy myself reading it. It's probably my second favorite out of the 3 books in that companion series that are currently out, but since I did end up giving it a 3.75 star, that means that I will be moving on to the next book in hopes of a 5-star. So the next book that I'm going to be picking up is Shutter by Ramona Emerson. This is a little bit more out of my comfort zone and what I normally read, but I'm really interested in the premise. It sounds really interesting, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a 5-star read. I haven't heard anyone talk about this book, so I'm definitely interested to see what my thoughts are going to be on it. The premise sounds so interesting, so I'm hoping this is going to be a 5-star book. This book is basically about a woman who is a crime scene photographer who is also a medium. So usually ghosts will come to her and help her solve their murders, until one day there is a murder of someone who doesn't want to help solve their murder. The ghost wants our photographer to help them get revenge, and so it's basically just following that storyline, and that sounds like really interesting to me, so I'm super interested in reading this. So this is what I'm about to start. So I'm probably gonna read a few minutes here before going to bed, and I will update you guys on my thoughts probably later. So I wanted to come on here and update that I finished another book, but unfortunately it was not a 5-star read. So I just finished Shutter by Ramona Emerson, and for a second I thought that it might be a 5-star read, but unfortunately it just fell a little short for me because it was way different than what I expected it to be. Okay, well, not like way different, but it was different from what I expected it to be. So it did for the most part follow the description on the back of the book, but it was told in a then now timeline, and I'm usually not the biggest fan of those types of stories, and so I just felt like the now timeline was a little bit more interesting than the then timeline. But then the then timeline, I felt like it was like cut abruptly. Like I feel like we didn't really get like a solution, I guess, for the then timeline, and I feel like the now timeline, I feel like we could have gotten more from those sections, because I felt like that was more of like what was going on with the mystery aspect. But I felt like the mystery part itself wasn't very mysterious in my opinion. Like I definitely had a feeling who was the culprit pretty much the entire time, but overall 3 stars. Not a terrible book. I would recommend it, I guess, if you're like interested in starting your mystery thriller genre. Maybe, I don't know, it was just okay. But now that I finished this one, I'll be moving on to my next book. Hello, so I've come to update that I finished another book, and unfortunately it is not a 5-star. So I just recently finished The Plus One by Maisie Eddings, and I put this on my TBR this month as a 5-star prediction because I read A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings and rated it 5 stars and really loved it. And I really liked this book too. It just was not a 5-star book for me. I decided to end up rating it 4 stars. So this book follows Indira, who is a psychiatrist, and Jude, who is an emergency medicine doctor who works for a like Doctors Without Borders type of situation. And this book is a little kind of hard-hitting because it's dealing with both of our main characters have some sort of trauma. So Jude, who is our main male character, he suffers from PTSD, and Indira suffers from trauma from her parents' divorce and her dad leaving their family when they were kids. So it kind of talks about those things in this book. So if those things are triggering for you, then proceed with caution when going into this book. But I definitely feel like Maisie Eddings is an author for someone who loves Abby Jimenez, because I feel like their books are very similar when they talk about like hard-hitting topics, but not in a like sad and like depressing way. And I feel like this book was done really well. I don't really have any experience with PTSD, so I can't really talk about that front, but I do feel like this book was written very well, and I felt like the topics in this were handled with care, and I just really enjoyed it. So I ended up giving it 4 stars, so not quite a 5-star read. But now that I finished this, I will be moving on to the next book in hopes of finding a 5-star read. So the next book that I will be moving on to is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. So this is the next book that I'm going to read. I really love Ali Hazelwood. I read The Love Hypothesis, and that is one of my favorite books of all time. That is a 5-star read for me. And then I read Love on the Brain, which I think I ended up giving 4 stars. So I feel like my track with Ali Hazelwood is pretty good. Plus I've read all of her novellas and really enjoyed those as well. So I'm hoping that this book is going to be a 5-star read for me. I did actually start it. I did actually start it a few minutes ago, and I'm currently on page 17, and so far I'm really enjoying it. So we'll see if I continue to like it, and like I said, hopefully this one will be a 5-star read for me. But yeah, that's gonna be it for now, and I'll talk to you guys again later. Hello, so I finished another book, and unfortunately we have not found a 5-star. So I just recently finished Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, and I've decided to give this book 4 stars. So I really enjoyed this. It was very academically political, which was fine, but I didn't really gel with all of the academic talk in this, or all of the like theoretical talk, I guess. But overall I still really enjoyed the story, and I really liked the 2 main characters. I especially really liked Jack as the main guy character. But this, I think part of the reason that I didn't give this higher than a 4-star is because I didn't get a chance to really read this and be as invested in this as I would have liked to, just because I got a little bit busier during the time that I was reading this book. So I kind of felt pulled out of the story, and so I think that's part of the reason that I am rating it the way that I am. But I really enjoyed this, and I definitely would recommend this book. So yeah, now with that being said, now that I'm done with this book, I think I'm actually going to move on to Fourth Wing, which I feel like could be a 5-star read. I've heard really amazing things about Fourth Wing, and I haven't hardly had any 5-star reads this year, so hopefully this will be a 5-star. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on reading that, and if it is a 5-star, then I will obviously let you guys know, and then we can end this video. But if not, then we'll keep on trekking on to see if we can find a 5-star book. Hello, I have come to update this vlog and tell you guys that I have found a 5-star read. So I'm giving this 5 stars. I had such a good time reading this book. Like, it was just all vibes. Like, this was so good in my opinion. Like, I just had such a fun time reading this. Was this the best book I've ever read before? No. Is this my favorite book of all time? No. But it was just so fun. The vibes were immaculate. I was just having a really good time reading this, and honestly I feel like it was something that I really needed in this moment. Like, I really just had the best time reading this, and I'm happy that it was a 5-star. I was worried because of all the hype that has been surrounding this book that I wouldn't necessarily like it, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time, and with that I am rating this book 5 stars, which means that I can conclude this video. So it's been about a month of me reading, trying to find a 5-star book, which seems to happen when I film these videos. It usually takes me about a month to film because I'm searching for 5-star reads, and it usually takes me that long to find one, which is probably why I've only had like 7 5-star reads at this point now out of the like 150 something books that I've read, 160 something books. So it's just been not a super good year for 5-star reads for me, but there's always next year, so fingers crossed that next year I'm going to be finding more books that I love and enjoy. But with that being said, that is all for today's video. If you have read any of the books in these videos, let me know down below in the comments. I would love to know your ratings on them, and if there were any that you rated 5 stars that I did not rate 5 stars, I would love to know. Or if you have any 5-star recommendations, I would love those as well. I would love to check them out. But with that being said, that's it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. I will have all of my social medias linked in the description, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.